Hi, I'm Stephanie Rozzo. Welcome to Nature Sketch Create's Weedy Seadragon Go Out and Sketch instructional video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to sketch a Weedy Seadragon. First, make sure you have all the materials you need before you go out to sketch. Head out to an aquarium to sketch a sea dragon or seahorse, or sketch from an HD video at home. Today I'm sketching from a composite video taken at the Aquarium of the Pacific for demonstrative purposes. Remember, this is just a sketch. Make sure to relax, take your time, observe, and paint. Don't let yourself get too caught up with the details. While you're sketching, apply what you know about Weedy Seadragons from your step-by-step sketching lesson. First, use a pencil to lightly draw a rough sketch of the animal to get the basic shape. Decide where you want the animal to be on your paper. And this might require you to watch it a little bit before starting. Then just draw a rough line of the size of the animal. So basically this is the head and the snout, down to the back and to the tail. So by drawing this line, you know that it will fit in this page and it won't be too big or too small. Then you can start drawing in. Think of each part as a shape. So here's the head is a shape, like a circle. The snout's going to be a bit of an oval. Then the neck is a bit of an oval too. It's a little bit more than that, but just draw that in, kind of a rectangle. This part is another circle. And then the back is basically kind of a half moon. And another half moon for part of the tail. And then the rest of the tail kind of juts out. And then you can start adding in some of the detail. I like starting with the head, so I'll add a few of the details on the face. Again, adding shapes to kind of map it out. And then defining some of the edges of the shape I've already drawn. I'm using a slightly darker mark to create those edges so that I know those are my final lines. Drawing in the snout. If there are any details you can't really see, you can refer to your final reference image to draw those in. Sometimes the animal might swim off, might not be around, so it's good to get the basic shape in first. The position will definitely be changing, unlike my composite here. Maybe you'll even just want to pause and sketch, but if you do that, you might get too caught up with the details, so just make sure you don't spend too much time on details if you have a still image. If you can, going to an aquarium and sketching is the best option. It doesn't need to be perfect, just a sketch. Just getting an idea of the animal on the paper. Going from one side to the other, getting in, defining the edges here. Not worrying too much about details or exact size. Even though this is a composite, it is a moving animal, so it's constantly changing. So it's not going to be exact, just approximate. And note there's plates on the back, and that the appendages come out a little bit, and then there's a little bit of a straight line, and then a flap. So just keeping with that knowledge. And the lighting from the aquarium is going to make this a little bit different too. So not getting exact here, just adding a few in where the blue is going to be, just to kind of indicate, not really counting how many, just approximate. This is just a sketch, so you don't want to spend too much time. Just note that there are lines and there are dots, and there's a blue patch here in the back as well. And I can't see the anal fin, so I'm not going to paint that in. And then I'm going to draw a line indicating where the spikes are to help me add those in when it's drying time with the micron. And I'm going to add a black area and a little reflection for the eye to make it look a little more realistic. And I think I've drawn in all the details that I want to have included in this. The sizing might not be right, and some of the things might not be right. So if I want to change a few things real quick, I can. Maybe make these back appendages a little bit larger. They may be a little bit larger. Or making sure to draw in this pectoral fin here, which I didn't draw in. Or adding, maybe add some lines to indicate. There, just to help myself out for later. So this is a sketch, nothing crazy. I'm going to go ahead and write in the common name and the scientific name as well with my pencil. And now I'm ready to move on to adding some paint. So I paint in the same order I added it with the step-by-step painting. And in this step-by-step, you didn't have to actually mix any colors, so I just went ahead and added new colors to my palette. I'm not reviving it like I usually do with a little water. So I have the very wet light, which means not as concentrated. It's wet in my palette, not on my paper. And I'm gonna go ahead and add that. And the color is going to be a little different than it is in your image, because the color from the aquarium or wherever you're at is a little different. And the animal is a different animal, so I didn't draw in any of the spots because it's a little difficult to do that when you're sketching, and it'll be easier to add later instead. So next I'm going to add the raw umber. Add a very wet, light, not very concentrated layer. And if your color is too concentrated, you can just dab it off onto your towel to help control. Just going to add it in all the places, and this is a little bit of an ugly stage right now. It looks a little crazy. Don't worry, it will come together in the end. It'll still be sketchy, but it'll look nice. Sometimes it's hard to overcome the ugly stage and keep painting. Referring to my composite video from the aquarium, as well as my step-by-step painting and my final reference. just adding it through. A little too concentrated. And again, not being exact about this, just getting an approximate idea. So I know that there are plates here. I don't know how many. I'm not going to have the time to count how many. I'm just going to kind of create some lines because it is a representation of this animal, not an exact. And there's a bit of a shading right around the spikes, the spines on the animal in my composite video, as well as some on the trunk rings on top here. And not working too hard to get exact. Again, just everything is an approximate. And letting the paint kind of go where it wants to go a little bit too. Just getting it in. And if I get outside the lines, I'm not too worried. Just moving quickly, not chaotically. And I think that works for that layer. So I'll move on to the next. I'm going to add the blue. I want to make sure most of your paint from the last step was dry. And again, this is just approximate, so it's going to be a little different from the animal itself. Just want to get an idea of the animal. Doesn't have to be exact at all. Just get a quick representation on your page. Then I'm going to add a little bit of this red. Keep it a little light. Dark, and go around that black dot I made and the white dot I made. Try not to get in there, so it looks a little more realistic when you add that reflection of light, whether you see it or not. I can't see it in the video, but I'm just going to add it anyway. And I also can't see it very well, but I know there's a little dot of red right in front of the eye. So I'm going to decide to add it in there, and you don't have to. And one thing I also noticed is that there's kind of a blue hue to a lot of the animal parts in this video due to the aquarium lighting. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. It's a little different from my step-by-step. I'm going to go ahead and add that in, this little blue hue. Now that those appendages have dried, it's just kind of throughout the whole animal. And if you're in person, you might not see it as apparent as I see it in this video. But I am noting that this is done from a video, so. And choosing to do it. This is your painting, so if you choose to add the certain colors or certain things in, that's up to you, and you can do whatever you like. Yeah, I like adding this little blue hue. I think it gives it kind of a unique look. Green, so each layer of paint that you apply, make sure it's dry before applying more paint, unless you want that kind of mixed watercolor look. The wet on wet kind of washes around and blends. Now a little bit of the sepia. I'm going to add a lighter layer first, and referring to my animal here in my video. That's where it might get a little trickier because I'm be careful of some of those dots, but again, I'm not going to worry too much. So I didn't draw the dots in beforehand. If it helps, go back and draw some dots. I'm just going to leave some spaces empty for some spots here because I see them there on that appendage as I paint. And then I'll be moving on into the rest of the animal. And wherever I see a lot of spots, I'm just going to be careful not to add too much paint there and keep it kind of light. Leave some space open for some spots that I can add with my micron pen. And if you make mistakes and put paint on the outside, that's fine. You can always change it. This is a sketch, so it's okay. When you're working, make sure you don't rub your hand in the paint. But if you make a smudge, maybe that will just add some more character to your painting, so that's okay too. The fun thing about sketching is it's nothing exact. You're just getting an idea, low pressure. And it's good to challenge yourself not to take too much time when you're sketching too. Just don't get too carried away. Save that for those long, drawn-out paintings. And by adding these marks here, I'm kind of mapping out my space a little bit. I'm also adding, there's the little darkness around the spines. And the location's not exact, of course, but it's just a sketch. Here in the snout there are a lot of spots, so I'm just kind of moving my brush. It's going to be dark on the bottom and then a little lighter on the top, and so I'm starting on the bottom with a line and then dabbing, speckling my brush because I'll define that into some spots with my micron pen. Again, working kind of top to bottom, left to right, so I don't smudge. Dabbing off my brush onto my towel before applying it to my paper again, after picking up a little bit more paint. I don't want too much water or too much color on my paper. Dabbing it onto my towel, make sure I do that. So just adding it to light dabs. And I pick up more paint whenever it seems like my paint is getting a little too light. I want it to be a little darker. I dab it on my towel again whenever I feel like it's a little too dark. Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and then add some more color just to deepen everything. I'm going to start with a little bit of blue because those are really dry, and adding it. Some areas have this really dark blue tinge to them, which I'm going to go ahead and represent. I'm not sure if it's the animal itself at this point or if it's just a reflection of the color from the aquarium lighting. But definitely fun to put the blue in there. And this was a little bit dry but still wet, so I was able to take my wet brush and create a tiny little gradient there. If you want to do that, that's a way you can do that. And now I'm going to start with the same areas I started with before. I'm going to add a little bit of this really dry, dark color sepia, so it's darker, more concentrated, and add it throughout. And I'm just going to add it in the same way I added it in the last step, but maybe to not quite as many areas. So now I'm going to let this dry and then move on to adding some ink. So I'm going to use an 005 micron just to kind of draw some of the lines I've already drawn. I'm also going to go ahead and write the common name and the scientific name. And basically when I go through and draw the lines with this pen, I will be redefining where some of the lines actually go. Since the pen's small, if I make any mistakes, I can fix that with a bigger pen. Again, mistakes are welcome in this exercise. I'm not going to add in the spots yet. I'm going to wait and do that with the bigger micron pen. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some black 01 micron lines. This is when I'm going to go ahead and add some spots and just define anything that needs a little thicker line. It might mean everything to you, or it might mean just a few things in the shadows. Anything you like. And don't forget to go through and add your little spots. And I think these depend on where the paint ended up. Because it's watercolor and you're sketching and you're going fast, it's a little easier to do that way rather than trying to paint around the spots. So if there are some lighter areas, make sure to add some spots in there. And since it's a sketch, you don't have to be exact. Just have fun adding them in. They're kind of fun to add a bunch of little circles. Now I'm going to add some 08 black micron lines. And I might do this to define the eye, around the eye a little bit more. Definitely down underneath here and around some of these spots. And I can add this in anywhere that's a bit darker. So in the middle of the eye here. Maybe even here on the tip. Make this a lot darker, kind of color it in a bit. On the edges of these appendages. In this video, these are a lot darker than I've made them from the painting. And that also helps make them pop a bit. And you can keep adding more pen and more paint. Just don't get too carried away with it. It's just a sketch. It's meant to stay simple. And I like where this one's at, except I'm going to add just a little bit more paint, just like in my step-by-step. I'm going to brighten it up a bit with a little bit of the yellow, because this animal is a lot brighter than what I'm representing here. And the brightness, contrast of the dark and the bright areas makes it really nice. I also think I like to add a little bit darker in these appendages. Just left them a little too light. Maybe it's just the lighting in the aquarium. It's really what they are. But I like to represent them just a little bit darker. Let's put a little bit more paint over that. I think I like the way it looks. We're done. Great job. This is your sketchbook, so when you're done painting, or even while you're painting, feel free to add any observations about the environment you were painting in, about the sea dragon itself, or how you were even feeling that day. This is your sketchbook. Make it yours. Great job observing your world. Keep practicing.